expert in the building. Why don't we bring him on the show and talk a little college football with him? Brock, great to see you, and thanks for coming in.
You know how we did that? Easy. Black 24, okay! Black 24, okay!
Okay.
Hot! Yeah.
The actual audible.
Yeah,
There you go.
He actually did that on the way in the studio. That's why we knew he was coming on here. We are going to pick your brain on a lot of football things here. Start with the college football playoff and it being officially set. We set it to open up the show. All right, if you're an Alabama fan and, good luck flossing those 3 teeth, you're upset today. But outside of those people, I don't know how many people are upset with this. I think they got it right, bro.
Yeah, it's just the SEC. He's going to be upset, right?
Sure.
As they're always upset, and they're the biggest power broker in the sport. And so whether it's Ole Miss or South Carolina or Alabama, and they'll look at it and go, well, why are we scheduling tough non-conference? Blah, 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 blah. Don't lose 3 games. All right, you lost to Oklahoma.
Yep.
You for South Carolina, you lost 3 games. For Ole Miss, you lost 3. Don't lose 3 games. To me, it seems pretty simple. And, oh, by the way, you only play 8 conference games, so I really don't want to hear any whining. No, the committee did what I think they had to do. I love Sean McDonough at the end of that game, right? The SMU was just a terrific game with Clemson, and he just did a PSA, and he's a pretty established voice and should have a pretty strong opinion doing the sport for 30 years. Like, get it right, committee. Get it right.
Yeah.
Do not, for the ecosystem of college football, could not afford for you to get this wrong and play to an SEC power when this team played in a championship game and put themselves right there on the brink of winning. So, and it's going to set up just some phenomenal matchups.
Get it right, Heisman Trophy. Who wins it?
Yeah, that is Travis is going to win it. And, I was got in a pretty good debate with others, and it's really Travis and Genty, those two. And I think, honestly, Scattaboo would probably be my 3rd.
Wow.
For elevating an entire program. To me, that's what the Heisman does. Everybody defines it differently. I'm one of the 1,300 voters. Are you, either of you?
I'm not. No, I'm not.
Nope.
So one of those voters, and, it's like the best football player, well, define the best. For me, in doing this, it is like who elevates everybody around him to a level that nobody else is doing. And to me, it's those 3 guys. Dylan Gabriel is probably right there as well. I think all 4 of those guys should be in New York City. And ultimately, Travis, as I said on the broadcast at the end, is the most dynamic and like superhuman player there is.
Well, even to your point of Dylan Gabriel didn't elevate the Ducks elevated Dylan.
They did. They're great all around him, loaded with NFL dudes everywhere, but he was still the facilitator.
Sure.
Got in a great conversation at halftime of the game. I don't think he'd be mad if I shared this publicly. Chris Peterson, who helped build Boise State and was there along with lots of other Boise State folks to celebrate a historic night for them. He said, it's interesting. And I said that. I said, Travis is the most dynamic superhuman player in college football. Ashton Genty is the best player. Like this year, he was the best player. He's going to run for 2,600 yards. Take him off Boise State, and they're 6-6. I really believe he's that much of a difference maker. And Chris and I were chatting and said, it'd be interesting if just coaches voted. If only the coaches voted. Now, unfortunately, Mountain West, Big 12, not much crossover as far as both facing Travis. I think there have been 2 teams in 2 years, so it'd be hard. But I think coaches, and to his point, he said, listen, if I was starting a college football team, who would I go with? Probably Dylan Gabriel first because you need the quarterback.
Right.
Okay.
Who am I going with next? Probably Ashton Genty.
Wow.
Because a corner and a receiver, right? And, just corner and receiver value versus a quarterback or a running back that literally carries the whole team and program. It's a different valuation moving forward.
Yeah, he can do everything. And I've heard the argument of you put Genty on CU and they're playing for
winning
everything.
the Big 12.
Right. They're winning the Big 12, and they're going deep in the college football playoff. When we look at kind of the face of college football, I saw something, maybe it was ESPN or something, like Dan Lanning's the new face of – and I was like, Deion Sanders is the face of college football. Now, there's one of one. He's a unicorn. But I feel that other teams are going to try to get sort of the prime effect wherever you need a new college football coach. Who is the face of college football? Lanning, Deion, somebody else?
Yeah, I mean, if Deion was on this stage in the Big 12 championship, right, if they had been there, I think there's more of a compelling argument. You only have, the NFL has 17 games and then it's so long. College football, you get 12, right? And you've got to get to that next stage. You've got to get to the weekend that just was where all eyeballs are on it. Now we get to the playoffs, which will be great, and it will add to some of that. I mean, it's funny because Deion in some ways is an outlier. College football is getting younger. Kenny Dillingham, I looked across from him in our meeting 2 weeks ago. I'm like, how old are you?
Yeah.
He's 34.
Right.
14 years younger than me.
He looks 20 and he's
Dan
34.
Lanning's 36. Like, where is college football going? I think it's going young for these guys that can work 20 hours a day and 7 days a week and have the energy and the juice to do it, to recruit your own team every day, to recruit outside, to recruit in the portal, like all year. I mean, my younger brother is the QB coach at USC, and I see him. I'm like, bro, you're like Mike Evans. You have aged so fast. You're living so many of these twofers, 2 for 1, right? Because of just the schedule is unsustainable, especially for older coaches. Now, Deion does it right. I think he lets his coaches and his younger coaches really, really coach, and he's kind of the figurehead overseeing it. The CEO does a remarkable job, but that is not where college football is going. It is getting younger and younger and younger.
That's the voice of Brock Huard. A couple more minutes with him talking some college football. Tell your brother thank you, by the way, for Julian. We'll send him a greeting card for that. When it comes to this CU team and a chance to win 10 games at the Alamo Bowl, I was telling Cecil, I'm not intrigued at all by the Alamo Bowl. I don't need to see the Buffs and the Cougars play. It's so boring. But the fact that Deion says these guys are going to play in this game, is this going to buck a trend, or is it a really bad decision from Pride?
I think it's just consistent with who they are. It was cool. I saw them 4 times this year. And finally, the victory cigar that I was calling a CU game finally got snuffed out in Arrowhead because Devin Neal was just in Kansas was really good that day in a tough matchup for them. But this is consistent with who they are. I went up the final week. I was like, I got to go see how the sausage is made. So I took a morning off from my show, and I went up and watched them practice because they practice in the morning. And I'm so glad I did because it was the most buttoned-up, professional, competitive environment that I see in college football.
Wow.
You know, I was really curious, like, would it be on point? You know, and you can hear things from Pat Shurmur and you can listen to him in meetings, but my wide-spaced eyes need to see it in person. And when I tell you every jersey was tucked in, every defensive player wore one uniform, every offensive player wore one uniform, everybody was buttoned up. Music wasn't blasting. It was like an NFL, it looked like a Sean Payton practice. And Pat Shurmur said, you know what's interesting, Brock? Deion talks a lot to Andy Reid. And Andy Reid is a lot of things, but Andy Reid is old school. Andy Reid still goes to training camp in Missouri, right? And they all stay in dorms and like he's old school is old school. They practice hard, they hit. And watching that practice late in the season, their O-line, D-line was, it was on, right? And it was physical, and they were in pads, and it was, 2 hours NFL practice. You get out there and you go 100 miles, and Deion was right there. They did team for 45 minutes. It was awesome, right? Like offense versus scout, defense versus scout, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I mean, it was really cool to see that operation. So long answer to say, yes, they should play because it's consistent with everything they preach. And if they pull them out, you are just disingenuous to the very culture of your program.
Real fast, would you want to play? What would you do if you were the quarterback?
If I was Shedeur, I'd want to play.
You would?
Now, I would.
Even with all that money on the line, Brock?
I would say, like, I don't want my legs. I thank God his foot got out of the grass at Arrowhead.
Right.
If they're in field turf or they're on sticky turf and his foot gets stuck, it's a Willis McGahee. Every ligament is blown. Seriously.
Yes. Yep.
It was a fraction. When that happened in real time, I was like, I thought his leg, honestly.
Yeah.
But thank God his foot got out of the way. And, I think if you're Shedeur, you finish out what you started.
Okay.
And to me, that game won't be boring because BYU will bring it. And their dudes will play. And that will be one of the better non-playoff games, honestly, because I think everybody will play, and they are going to want to beat the heck out of Colorado, and Colorado's going to put a final stamp on a profound season with double-digit wins. To me, that one will have a whole bunch of meaning.
Brock, we certainly appreciate your time. I got to get one in on Bo Nix,
Yeah.
and I got to pick your brain about so much other stuff. So, dinner invite sometime. But Bo Nix, just give us your thoughts on the young quarterback so far.
I think I said this to the morning guys a couple weeks ago. When he barked back at Sean Payton, I'm like, yep. That's it. We look for all these moments, right? You got a scouting eye. You look for the fundamentals and the feet and the accuracy, anticipate all these things. But ultimately, like the balls, to look the head coach in the eye when he's barking at him and bark right back. Because Sean Payton got some of that Mike Holmgren, some of that Bill Parcells, some of that bully. And he wants to kind of, push your buttons and bully you. And he just punched that bully right back. And the amount of respect I think he gained from his peers, from the whole team, and certainly the head coach himself in that moment, to me, that was fairly galvanizing.
And that was 5 weeks in. 5 weeks in.
And what's their record
comfort to
since
do that.
then?
pretty damn good.
Where's their offensive execution since then?
Right, right.
Pretty cool moment.
Brock, you are awesome, man. Always love when you're on a broadcast that I'm watching because you absolutely crush it. Our first time getting to meet in person.
Yeah, nice
so
to see you.
thanks for coming in here. Keep up the great work.
Do it again.
All right, Brock Huard right there. We'll react to what Brock had to say and get into that Broncos conversation about the good side, the positive side of a rebuild.